Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Endpoint. I'm David Rastatter from Jitterbit, and I actually have a special episode today. We're going to do a recap of the NRF trade show that just occurred this past weekend. So I have here our very own Greg Belkin, who's the Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Jitterbit. Welcome, Greg.
Thanks, David, for having me on the show.
Cool. So just a couple questions about the show. First off, how did this year's NRF differ from last year's or other years in the past?
So that's a good question. I think this year the crowd was much bigger in size. There was a lot more energy. There was a lot more people. I think people were, really filling the hall, taking an interest. And I think that they were much more engaged than they've been in previous years. Now, obviously, the last couple of years we've dealt with COVID, and there's been a couple other challenges. But I think that this year people were especially energized. They were good to be back out and ready to engage.
Cool. Well, let's get right into it. So what were some of the key trends that you heard, maybe on the expo floor or in the breakouts, the different themes, and then the small, sidebar conversations at the networking events? Like, can you just give me a couple of those?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. So I think that honestly, there's a few of them. First of all, I think retailers are really looking to future-proof their business. And so that was really a big topic of conversation, getting ready for the unexpected. We've all been through a lot with, COVID and inflation and, global supply chain challenges. And I think that retailers are really trying to zero in and prepare for the unexpected. And the way they're doing that is really by re-embracing customer intimacy and really engaging, making sure that the omni-channel experience for retailers at all points of the interaction cycle are consistent. We heard the CEO of Neiman Marcus say that 70% of the stores were at a high watermark compared to 2019. And that, this rumor that, the store experience was dying is totally untrue. And so I think consumers really expect that, when they go shopping in one place and, one channel, it's going to be the same exact feeling and experience as it is on the other.
Yeah, that buy online, pick up in store BOPIS, that we're seeing is really a trend. So that, like you just said, it's really important to connect the different channels because as we saw just before the holiday shopping, consumers aren't dedicated to one channel. They want to do everything their way on their terms. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great.
The other trend that was interesting at the show was this talk of automation and the automation journey. And, we saw on the trade show floor a lot of different solution providers talking about artificial intelligence, Web 3.0, RPA. So there's a lot of different technologies that are kind of floating out there. But I think that the sentiment was that a lot of retailers are at very different levels of that. A lot of them just starting out, just really starting to get their feet wet and take a fresh approach to an automation strategy. And so I think that, whether, you're at a deep level in automation or at a beginning level, I think, they're just, starting to get comfortable with building that strategy and going forward and maybe need some handholding. And then finally, I would say, a special nod to the employee and the employee experience. That was a big topic of conversation as well. This concept of, having a consumer-like experience for employees. And one thing that I noticed that was a little bit different, that was kind of an add-on to that is, I think that retailers are really encouraging their employees to follow their passion. That was a big conversation in a lot of the keynotes on the trade show floor. And I think that, when you start talking about encouraging your employees to follow their passions, you kind of have to prepare for that, because that means that tougher questions are going to be asked, and higher expectations are going to be had of the employer, and they're going to have to rise to the occasion to meet that challenge, meet that passion, or else it's going to be tough for them to retain talent.
Of course, yeah, you can't forget about the employees, and of course, that has to be on everybody's mind moving to 2023, and then also giving employees, like you said, the right tools and the resources to make their job easier, because that will help retain them because they're your customers too.
Really.
Okay, and then I guess finally, what is your key takeaway that you would like to, share with us today?
Well, there were a bunch of takeaways, but I think the key one for me is that the in-store experience is still very much a key factor, and that retailers need to make sure that the experience is uniform and personalized at all ends of the shopping experience for the consumer. The store experience, it's not dead. And in fact, many cases, it's much healthier than it's been just pre-COVID. So I think that the sooner that retailers embrace this omni-channel concept and making sure that the experience is consistent from one channel to the other, I think the faster they're going to recover and the better they're going to be.
Great. Well, Greg, that's our time today, and I really appreciate it. Looking forward to having you as a guest on future Endpoints, and thank you out there for watching us. Don't forget to follow us on our social media channels, ask questions in the comments box on our post, and we'll see you real soon for another episode of Endpoint. Thanks, Greg.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye-bye.